Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies, the official inaugural episode of Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies on the actual channel.
Oh,
I
sick.
recently had to rebrand it, so we're good to go. I added a nice picture in the background as well for the banner.
The Salem Red Light District?
Yeah, the Salem Red Light
I saw
District.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. But yes, we are here to discuss a new film that has been recently been released in IMAX.
Oh, yeah. That's where we just came from.
We just came from the movies with this film, and it was a packed crowd, to say the
Oh,
least.
my God. There was at least, like 7 people, including us?
5 people.
That's insane.
5 people.
I can't count that high.
And that film is Atlas, starring Jennifer Lopez.
And it's not that I hate AI, Smith. Truth is, I don't actually like anybody. People always disappoint, but not you.
Great film on Netflix. Basically sci-fi.
We're here to talk about Furiosa.
A Mad Max story directed by George Miller. The mind that created the film Happy Feet.
And Babe, Pig in the City.
Babe, Pig in the City, yeah, that as well. So overall, before we get into our overall thoughts on the film, as always, Nathan, what is this film about?
Furiosa tells the tale of Furiosa, who many people were introduced to in Mad Max Fury Road. This is essentially her origin story. It is a prequel to Fury Road. It follows young Furiosa as she is taken from her home. She's taken out into the wasteland where she meets Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth, and the movie just follows her journey of survival, her quest to get home, and to maybe even take revenge on Chris Hemsworth's Dementis.
Awesome. And what are your thoughts on this film?
I really like it. I think it is great. As much as I want to say I love it, I'm not going to. I'd say if I love Fury Road, Furiosa is just like a single notch below it. I think it is a wonderful, terrific movie. I think George Miller has done it again. It is a very different movie from Mad Max. It might not be what a lot of people are expecting, but I think what we are given is just absolutely just masterful in its direction, in its storytelling, in its world building. I think it is great. If I were to give it a number, I'd give it maybe an 8 out of 10.
And you watched it twice, right?
I did watch it twice. I watched it Friday, its opening in IMAX, and then we just came back from watching it in another IMAX theater, the AMC IMAX.
AMC IMAX, which is obviously, the pinnacle of watching a movie.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's not just a bigger screen with more sound to it. It's more intricate than that.
It's more than that. It's a bigger screen with more sound.
Yeah, it's a bigger screen with more. That's all IMAX is nowadays.
Really?
There's only a handful of IMAX theaters that actually matter.
That feel like you're getting a different experience than you would otherwise.
Watching it in Dolby or just watching it in standard def.
Yeah.
But this is, AMC, what are we doing? Obviously the stubs list is pretty good. The AMC stubs member list is actually kind of decent if you're an A-list, that is. But oh my god, it was not ideal.
Yeah, it's not better than most AMC theaters, but still AMC. Take some of that money from Nicole and put it towards your actual theaters.
Take some money away from Maria Menounos and put it into an actual IMAX.
Maria Menounos, you don't need that money.
Yeah, you're settling with Access Hollywood money, man. You're swimming in that.
Yeah.
But yes, overall you liked it a lot, right?
I did.
All right, I liked it.
Yes.
I didn't love it. There were some issues that I had with it.
Okay.
I mean, not to nitpick, but I did like it.
Yes. This is your first Mad Max movie.
This is the first ever Mad Max movie I ever watched.
You didn't even watch Fury Road.
I haven't watched the Mel Gibson ones. Haven't watched Fury Road. But overall, I did like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say I would watch the other ones.
Really?
I mean,
not even Fury Road.
I'll get to it eventually. I did. I remember I messaged you the other day. I'm like, hey, I haven't watched any of the Mad Max films, so I don't know what to expect with this film. But overall, I liked it. I thought the acting was stellar. I thought Anya Taylor-Joy really stole the show. Hemsworth, while at times was a little bit silly, a little bit campy.
You didn't like that about him?
I think that that's what made the film admirable. is that it didn't take itself that seriously. It understood its role as a summer popcorn flick. I don't think anyone can view this film. I mean, just my opinion. But I think that this is by the numbers like a summer popcorn flick.
Really?
I do think so. That's not taking away from the film. That doesn't mean the film stinks. All right, if you're watching this, that doesn't mean it's a mediocre film. It's a great film. It's a good film, bordering on great. But when you watch it, it's like, yeah, this film was meant to be watched in a theater in the summer.
Yeah.
And I think Hemsworth understood the role, and he did a great job at placating to that. Now, that doesn't mean that I hated the villain, but it was just something that I kind of noticed. Okay. Where for me, like when you see the more outlandish Australian accent, spoiler, this happens in Australia. Not to deter anybody from not watching the movie, but it happens.
If you really hate Australia, you might not like this.
But he really hams up the Australian accent in this, and I think that's sort of a tell as to like, okay, we're expecting a more like cartoony antagonist. Obviously, what he does is horrendous, right? But
demented even.
Dementus. Say that 3 times fast.
Dementus.
I say yeah. But overall, it was a fun film. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, overall, there are things that we can really get into with the film. Obviously, we're not going to break down all of it.
No, especially because it is a more recent film, and I think people should go out to see it and give it some support, because
and plus I didn't take notes on it either, so it's a little difficult for me to really like say, okay, this happened in Act 2, no, this happened in Act 3. It's kind of difficult for us to do that. So yeah, definitely go watch it on I wouldn't say the biggest screen possible, but because we did it and it was kind of but
find a screen that ideally isn't like a $20 AMC ticket.
Yeah, find it in a movie theater, because this movie needs more butts and seats.
It does. It really does.
But yeah, overall, I like the film. What were some aspects in the film that you really enjoyed?
I enjoyed because I think I enjoyed how much it's more narrative focused, especially in comparison to Fury Road. That movie is essentially like a 2-hour long, just like straight up action scene. That is the majority of that movie. It's very straightforward. This one is telling a legitimate, like, it's an odyssey of Furiosa's journey to return to her home and to get her revenge against Chris Hemsworth, and you're allowed to really soak in the wasteland that George Miller builds. For some reason, I kept thinking of, you're gonna roll your eyes when I say this, Dune 2, just in terms of like the detail and the thought that goes into the world and just the details of it. All the characters are so strong and unique. You can really sense that they put a lot of time and effort into making this wasteland as immersive for the audience as possible, just like how crazy and wacky it is. And you said that this is like by the numbers, like summer popcorn action flick.
When I say that, I mean like this film should be designed to be watched as like, it's not like I wouldn't say this is John Wick. I wouldn't say that this is like any of that. I wouldn't say this is like your typical superhero movie. But like when I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this should, like, when I watch this film, it's like a 2000 sort of like like I sort of view this in a very similar ways to say like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
In sort of that vein. I'm not saying that just because the villains are similar looking. I'm not just saying it because of that. But I do feel like this is a film that, you know, it sort of takes you in a different world, makes you believe in make believe. But yeah, I don't think it's like by the numbers, like a typical.
Yeah, no, because that's the one thing. Because like I can't imagine like a wide audience really just because it's so wacky and weird.
But then if it's so not meant for a wide audience, then why put it in IMAX?
Because it's for cinema weirdos who like all this crazy, wacky, overblown, exaggerated stuff.
But even like any theater chain could tell you that doesn't comprise most of the audience.
Well, most
They
of
understand
the audience is trash.
I understand that, but even they understand that as well.
Yeah.
You know, they understand. They see the returns for Deadpool and Wolverine, and they see the returns for the 30th installment of the Spider-Man franchise. So, I mean, the thing is that it's a good film. It's bordering on great. I do think that this is meant to be watched as a summertime popcorn flick, and I think in a lot of ways, it is intended for a general audience.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we're snobs because we particularly like the film, as opposed to say some others who don't enjoy the film. But yeah, I do think that if you're putting it in like, IMAX, it's designed to sell as many tickets as possible.
Yeah, that's fair.
But again, overall, I did like it. I thought the direction was great. The pacing was never really that slow.
No.
I only checked my phone once or twice, but that's because I wanted to see if there were any messages from close relatives or from Dan or Ethan, who have been on the pod before. So definitely go watch those episodes if you haven't already. I thought the pacing was great. I thought Anya Taylor-Joy really stole the show, despite how limited her dialogue was. You mentioned Dune.
Yeah.
And I can see the similarities. Obviously, it happens in the desert.
Deserts.
But I do think that the world of Dune is a little bit more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And a little bit more expansive than this one.
Yeah, because that's like big sci-fi, and this is dirty Australians in a post-apocalypse.
I mean, overall, I did enjoy it. Yes, there are things that I could nitpick here and there. If I did, it would be a little bit of the CGI, or the visual effects. The sound design was great, as we mentioned before, but the CGI was a little shoddy here and there. It was great for most of it, but there were certain scenes where like, that's a little ugly looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought the characters were well fleshed out. Despite my little criticism of the Chris Hemsworth character, where I felt like, especially in the final scene, not final scene of the movie, but in the final confrontation between, not spoiler alert, but you would expect that there would be a final confrontation. Yeah. I felt as if it was a little bit prolonged.
Okay.
And I do feel as if like there was a little bit of there were a few times where I was a little bit laughing at the dialogue when I should not have been laughing.
I think it's okay that you're laughing at some of the movie, because I think the movie is very well aware of how wacky it is. There are three things from what you just said I want to talk about. First, I'll start with Chris Hemsworth, because I actually really love his performance.
I think he's good.
I think, and like even like the fact that he's hamming it up and like kind of chewing the scenery, that never takes me out of it. It just feels like it feels so natural in this exaggerated like wasteland that this would be a guy who's walking around with his gang.
I will say I could understand every word he said.
Yeah.
No, the guy who played Winston Churchill, not so much. There were times where
Winston Churchill?
I mean, the guy who looks
who
like
looks
Winston,
the people eater.
Yeah, the people eater. The guy who was wearing a suit and tie in the middle of a desert.
Suit, tie, belt with a gas mask.
Yeah, a little
as
sort
a
of
cod piece.
Yeah, a little bit of a glass, like a Ben Franklin glass. I thought I honestly couldn't understand a single word he said.
Yeah. But it's fine, because these movies are meant to be like they're visual.
Yeah, it's visual. I mean, we mentioned Denis Villeneuve's quote about how no one really remembers the dialogue of a film, and this film matches that exactly.
Yeah, I think George Miller even has like a similar quote where he's like, dialogue is boring. Do something on the screen that like the audience can immediately visually connect with. I think he does that very well, because this movie's very visual in its direction, in its production design, the look and the energy, the editing is very kinetic. That's the entire movie, is just like you said. The pacing is like, it never slows down, even when there's not action happening. It has this steady pace going on.
Yeah. And overall, I thought that this film is something that can be enjoyed. I think that, I mean, obviously it's a R rating, so maybe not so much the summer popcorn flick as I was suggesting.
Bring your kids to see this; they're gonna love it.
I mean, it is bloody, it is graphic. There's not like sex scene in there, you know. So I think a kid could potentially watch it.
Yeah, just
as long as you're, you know, a kid who's over the age of 18. But
hey, as long as your toddler can handle like dismemberment and horrible car violence.
Yeah. As long as they can understand that, as long as they can appreciate that, then it's fine. I mean, I did see children at a Civil War screening.
Really?
Yeah, I saw children at a Civil War screening. When I went to the theater to see Civil War, I saw children there.
Oh.
Which it's not. I mean, if I had a child, I probably wouldn't have brought him.
Yeah, probably
but,
don't.
Hey, I appreciate the maturity to those children. They weren't talking at all.
They were probably because they were traumatized.
They were probably traumatized. Yeah.
It's like, where's Captain America?
Where's Kevin Hart? You know, I want to see how short he is. I want to make fun of how short he is. But yeah, overall, I thought it was fun. The trailers I thought were also interesting.
The trailers,
it lasted for 20 minutes. By most of it, we were the only two people seated in the theater.
Yeah.
It was a haunting experience. I was like, did somebody, like, was there a bomb threat here?
Yeah.
Did somebody make a bomb threat in this theater? Like, what was the reason?
Breaking now at 11, 4 girls, all minors, were stabbed in a Braintree movie theater in an apparent random attack. I-Team sources say the suspect is believed to be wanted for a murder in Connecticut. That same man is believed to then have traveled to Braintree and Plymouth, allegedly attacking people along the way before his car burst into flames in Sandwich and he was arrested.
Just there's no one going out to see the movie, which is...
It's kind of sad, I'm not gonna lie.
Very unfortunate. I think I checked my phone before we started. I think it's made like 31 million. I have no idea what the budget
$100 million, 150.
Maybe.
This film's not gonna make its money back. Spoiler alert on that. No offense to anybody in the cast or crew.
I think
but apparently the cast and crew didn't really enjoy filming this movie either.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the rule for making a Mad Max movie. Like the filming of Fury Road was a nightmare because they were filming like in Namibia, like in a desert. It was scorching heat. They're doing almost everything like practically. Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy hated each other, absolutely hated each other. So the filming of that movie was kind of a nightmare.
Even Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie had a few creative differences with George Miller.
Really?
It wasn't that bad, but I saw one tweet, and I don't know the validity to this. So again, you know, just hear out what I'm saying. But apparently, Anya Taylor-Joy had some creative differences with George Miller because George Miller would instruct Anya Taylor-Joy to cry, and she would be like, "Well, no, in this scene, it makes perfect sense for her to be mad instead."
Okay.
Now I don't know.
I don't think she cried once during the movie. So obviously, George Miller took her notes.
Yeah. But I did read that on Twitter. And again, Twitter is like the leader in misinformation, so who knows? But I read that. I'm like, yeah, it seems as if this film also had some rifts between the cast members as well. Or between the cast and crew.
I can see that. It obviously did not look like it was an easy movie to film. There's so many moving parts and sets, and just some of the action is so elaborate, like hilariously elaborate, all the stuff that's like packed in. But I feel I don't know, for me as the viewer, I think it was worth it, the experience, because it's so creative and imaginative.
Yeah, it's definitely creative and imaginative. And yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty straightforward story. I mean, I think anybody can really understand the story as long as you like pay attention in pockets when you need to. Yeah, but overall, I thought like, you know, even Gastown was built amazingly well.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, overall, Chris Hemsworth does a great job in terms of like showing like the more human side of him. Especially in those moments where he's sort of the little man in a bigger pond. Yeah,
no, the character of Dementus, I absolutely adore. I think Chris Hemsworth does fantastic. You said you weren't really a fan of his final confrontation with, like, his scenes near the end of the movie is what we'll say to avoid spoilers. You weren't really a fan of, like, it went on too long, is what you were saying?
I felt as if they tried to really, like, go through, especially with the narration, because I do think the narration, which is like apparently a theme within the Mad Max films.
It's a light thing because all the movies are kind of essentially like they're folklore within its own universe. They're like stories told around like a campfire, and that's like essentially what the audience is experiencing. It's like a tall tale.
Yeah. I just felt as if the confrontation between Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth just went a little too longer than I wanted it to be. I mean, obviously, like, there were moments where I was like, "Hey, there's some good dialogue here," and like I understand like the motivations between both these characters, and that was well fleshed out. I felt like that scene in particular really gave a lot, but with a film that was like over 2.5 hours long of just action to really like go into like a screeching halt like that, for me personally, I felt as if it could have been a little shorter. But again, that's just me because I have a very sort of short, window of operating.
No, I understand your thoughts. It is a long movie, and I think it does near the end. It does feel like it's dragging a bit. That is one thing I will say. It does feel, I think, because the movie's split up into chapters. I think by the end of the fourth, that's when I'm like, we've been here for a while now. But like, luckily, like by that time, the movie is starting to wrap up a bit. So it's never, I think, egregious. And I do, like you, I do like that final scene.
I think
their interaction. I think it's
the scene was needed.
Amazing.
The scene was needed, most definitely. I just felt it went a little too. I felt as if, especially with the narrator being like, he could have died this way, or spoiler, he could have died this way, or he could have died that way, but he died this way, and it's just like, just go to that. Just go to that. We don't need a reenactment of the ways he could have died. You know? It felt a little too. But I thought the imagery was great. I thought the transitions. I didn't mention the transitions, but I love the transitions, especially the ways
so good,
in terms of like how the desert went from like bright as day to night.
Yeah.
There were several transitions like that. One where there was like a skull and like a lizard came out of that skull, and then it's
run over,
hard cut over, by a biker. How do you call those people that were aligned with Dementus? Are they bandits? What do you call them? Bandits? What do you call them? Rebels? Like, I don't think they were ever given a name.
Not really. From what I could gather from the movie, Dementus's group is kind of made up of like other smaller like groups. Like I remember there's one scene where he's like commanding one of his bikers, just like, "Hey, paint yourself like a war boy," and he's like, "I only take orders from the Octo Boss," and it's like the guy with the big horns and like the octopus tentacles.
He kind of looked like the antagonist for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Barbossa?
I think so. Yeah.
Little. No, I can see that a little bit. But he's got like his own gang. The way I think of Dementus is he kind of reminds me of like a 70s like rock star. Like the way he acts, he's larger than life. He's like hyping up like his team. He's got like he plays Radio Gaga, Live Aid. He's got the microphone. Just he's larger than life, very charismatic. He's got like his team is like his own little like entourage. There's like the first time we see him, like he's like cloaked. There's just like this nice wide shot of like his little like group. He's got like his enforcers. He's got the history man, the Octoboss, like his second in command. He's got his Smeg, his like hype man. It's like the guy who whenever he's making his speeches, the guy is just like doing just like almost like interpretive dance.
It reminded me of the wrestling promoter from Monkey Man. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same guy. Probably not.
It's not the same guy, but like I don't know. I like the Smeg.
He was very a good funny. Man. A lot of disfigured people. That kind of caught me off guard. I was like, because again, this is the first Mad Max movie I ever watched. I thought it was just going to be like a, like very clean, chic, kind of like similar to Dune in a lot of ways.
No,
but a lot of people missing their eyes. A lot of people with very bumpy skin.
Yeah, this is a dirty, filthy wasteland. It ties into like the world of Mad Max. Like a lot of people are just like born like deformed essentially, and that's why they call everyone like this guy is Half-Life, because they're just like deformed and have all these like just like sicknesses. And also it's like a George Miller thing. He likes casting people with just like kind of interesting physical features. Like there's like one war boy, and he's just like a little tiny guy.
Oh.
I
feel bad for him.
I was unreasonably attached to the little war boy.
So Dan Doherty, if you're watching, they're casting for you. Just joking. Just jokes. But overall, you watched it twice. I really want to know your first time watching this film. Were there more people there? Was it a little bit more adventurous the first time you watched it? Was your excitement for the film for your first watch much more?
It was not as packed as you would think. It was definitely more than our theater, but for like opening night of like a big new movie on the weekend, it's got an IP and a good director attached to it, you'd have expected more of an audience. I'd say we were only like maybe just a tad bit more, or like only halfway full.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not good. And I think that this is a running theme with not just Mad Max. We see this in the new Planet of the Apes movie. Yeah. We're seeing this with the Fall Guy. I mentioned it to Nathan earlier today, in which the Fall Guy went straight to streaming after 2 weeks in the theaters. You watched the Fall Guy. We're not going to review it, but your overall thoughts were...
I didn't like the Fall Guy. I didn't like it.
Yeah. So overall, I don't know if it's a movie problem. I don't know if it's an audience cinema goer problem.
Yeah.
But this is not a good trend.
There's something weird going on.
And I think with the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie, not to really forecast anything, but I think that will be a big tell as to not only the future of superhero movies in film, in the movie theater, but just the future of movie theaters in general.
Yeah.
Because if that fails, because that's what all these movie theaters are banking on, is that one film. If that fails... that's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. But
and I like movie theaters. I enjoy sitting, especially when it's not as busy. I enjoy watching films in a theater. I feel as if films were made for the theater. Sean Baker won the Palme d'Or yesterday for his new film Amora,
nice.
And he said that it's nice to know that films are back to where they originally were, which is the theater.
Yeah,
which I think that's a very poetic way of saying it. But I'm very afraid of theaters.
Yeah, and
their lifespan.
And it is a shame, because I feel like right now we're getting a lot of very interesting movies. We're getting movies made by filmmakers. Like even if it's like something like Mad Max, which is like it's a Warner Brothers IP, it still has the creative force behind it of George Miller, who's like, this is my movie and I'm gonna make it like my way. And so like I do want more support for these movies in theaters, because we have directors being given opportunities to make their movie their way, and I hope that the audiences can come out, see that, and support that. But you want to know about my experience watching it the first time?
Yeah, first time. Yeah.
First time.
We went a little bit out of
well, a little off the rails here, but that's okay. My first experience, I was blown away. I was shook to my core. The first time I saw it, I thought I was in love. I was feeling the same way I felt when I saw Mad Max Fury Road for the first time. I thought, he's done it again. He was able to recapture the magic of that first film, which was like lightning in a bottle. I was shook. I was engaged the entire time. I came out. I was excited. I was jumping around. It was an amazing theatrical experience. This time around, I don't think much changed. I don't think much changed, but I think seeing it now that I've settled, I did pick out just like very tiny things where I'm like, maybe this won't be for everyone.
Name them, or not? You don't have to. But I mean, point out those flaws, because I want to know like what parts of the film that you weren't really a fan of.
The pacing goes off the rails near the end. It gets a little long. You mentioned the CG looking a little iffy. That didn't bother me. That noticeable CG doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, same here. It doesn't bother me, but I do think that for like a 9-figure budget film, you should really focus on that one little detail.
I don't mind it. It doesn't ruin the experience, but like I'm thinking about like someone else who might see it who'll be like, "Oh, it completely took me out of the movie."
It didn't take me out of the movie, by the way, but for other people, maybe.
Yeah, but like someone else might feel that way. Doesn't bother me. I still think the CGI was good. It was just more noticeable this time around. It's really just those two things. Like, I still greatly adore the movie. I think Fury Road is just a tighter experience. It's more consistent. But that being said, I feel like there's more going on in Furiosa that I like. There's much more to chew on with the world, the narrative, and the characters.
Yeah. And overall, I thought that the shot selections of a few scenes were really good. The one in which, there's flames coming up and, you see, Anya Taylor-Joy just in the middle of the camera, and you just see all those flames coming out. That's a great shot. Yeah, I would say that's a movie poster kind of shot.
Oh yeah, there's so many just shots in this that scream like, oh, this is iconic right now. I think something
even in the beginning of the film, in which not spoiler alert, but where Furiosa's mom, picks her up. That entire sequence was very beautifully shot and constructed.
Oh yeah,
I love that a lot.
I love
even the car chase scenes were great.
Yeah, I love the first like 20-30 minutes of this movie where it's we're in light spoiler territory, I would say. Yeah. Where it's like Furiosa's mother following Dementis' gang through the desert and slowly picking them off. I think that's such a great way to start the movie and get us like automatically like locked in to this journey.
Even the as we were talking about the car chase scenes.
Yes.
There was like one in the middle of the film that was just so long.
It goes on for
it doesn't
like 15 minutes.
It doesn't feel like it though.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like for 5-7 minutes, but
it keeps like resetting itself, like with new stuff coming in and happening.
I thought that was like my favorite part of the entire film. I love that a lot. And overall, I did like it. I liked it a lot. I don't love it. I like it a lot. I wouldn't say it's. I probably wouldn't even put it in my top 5 movies of
this year. Yeah. Really?
What do you put it in your top 5 so far?
Yeah, easily. I'd say it easily makes that. Yeah, I think you should watch Fury Road.
I probably have to watch Furiosa again to get a better opinion.
I think if you're apprehensive about really liking this one or loving this one, I know you like it. I think Fury Road will fix a lot of problems that you might have with this one.
Maybe. When I was watching this film and seeing like the lack of buzz for this film, it reminded me a lot from last year's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
Is it a deep cut?
I don't know because I didn't watch Mission Impossible.
Yeah, well, that film didn't really make a lot of money in the box office, but it reminds me a lot like that film, where it's beautifully shot. There's really no time to breathe in the film. By the way, there's a trailer for Don't Breathe in this. Not Don't Breathe, but A Quiet Place, which looks horrendous. It was one of the worst trailers we watched in the previews.
I get so annoyed every time I see the new Quiet Place trailer. Just like, yeah, I get it. They have to shut up. Like, yeah, I know how to fight. Just shut your mouth.
It makes no sense. You see one suitcase just tumble over, and all of a sudden you have 4 monsters on it. It's like, how are they able to? Like, when did they have super hearing? Like, when did they?
Well, I mean, like that was the entire point, is that they have super hearing. But it's like,
but again, one suitcase, and you're like, okay, we gotta go in for the kill. It's like, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. Overall, this film was good. Definitely go watch it if you haven't already. I'm scared for film. I'm scared for film. I feel like this is going to be a turning point if we don't get enough people to sit and watch it. I was a little bit hopeful because I saw Civil War doing pretty well in the box office. Civil War actually did make its money back.
That's good.
Monkey Man as well. A lot of the films that we talked about on this podcast made their money back.
Yeah, I foresee Furiosa also being able to make its money back, but like I think it's gonna do as well as Fury Road did, which, as much as everyone gushes over Fury Road today and as great as it is, when it came out initially, it kind of just was able to make its money back. It wasn't like a massive splash that everyone saw. It's not like theaters were like filling up. It did well, but no more than just well, which I'm hoping Furiosa can do well. They can maybe make a third Mad Max before George Miller kicks it. He is like 80.
He is
but
pretty old.
It's astounding that an 80-year-old Australian grandpa is making these absolutely ridiculous,
and he's made some great films as well outside of Mad Max.
He has Babe Pig in the City.
Dan Doherty mentioned that the last episode.
Did
at
he?
the end of it.
Did he mention Babe?
Yeah.
Have you seen Babe Pig in the City? Come on.
See ya, guys. Bye.
Oh, he did. I remember that.
So that movie's pretty good. Happy Feet I like as well.
Yeah, we don't need a Happy Feet. We don't need to talk about Happy Feet 2. I think George Miller even said, if you gave me the choice between, like, if you put a gun to my head and made me make, like, a Happy Feet 3, I'd tell you to pull the trigger.
Did he make Happy Feet 2?
I think so.
Or
I
did
don't
he
know.
produce it?
I cannot remember.
We'll put it in.
Fact check that.
We'll put it in. I'll fact check it in.
Oh, he also made another movie, 3,000 Years of Longing, with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. I'm not sure if you ever saw that.
Is it like a rom-com?
Not
drama.
It's hard to categorize. It's very weird. It's almost like a light anthology. Yeah,
but overall, parting thoughts. You really loved it, or you really liked it, bordering on loving it.
I really liked. I'll say love. Whatever. I've been telling myself just like no, like take it back, take a step back. But whatever. I love it. It's great. Go see it, please.
I really liked it. Bordering on really liking it, really liking it.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it's a fun film. It's enjoyable. You don't really have to think that much about the film. It's not a film that you like go out and you're like, okay, what was the subtle imagery? You know, like what was he thinking when he did this film? Or what was he thinking when he did this shot? It's not that. It's just you watch it, you enjoy it, you just do your thing. And, you know, this is a film that encompasses that. And I hope people watch this film because I think in a lot of ways this does mark a turn for action films.
Yeah.
And I think depending on how well this movie does, this will set a trend for films to be more original like this. And I think that's sort of what we want in Hollywood.
Yeah, we want more original films. We want directors being given more control over their movies and being allowed to express themselves.
Yeah, we want more of this and less Deadpool and Wolverine. I'll be honest. I know Nathan has a Deadpool tattoo.
I do. It's my greatest shame.
Your greatest shame. But overall, I mean, I don't want to see Deadpool and Wolverine.
We're probably
gonna review it, much to my chagrin. But every time I see Ryan, I mentioned this to you, but every time I see Ryan Reynolds, and this is one of the reasons why I can't get into Deadpool or Ryan Reynolds, is because to me, like when I see Ryan Reynolds in a Deadpool movie, I just feel as if he's just cashing in on the idea that everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, him being self-aware of the movie in and of itself makes the movie not so great.
We're very excited to be joining you July 26th. Many of you are very excited, but we should set the table correctly. This film is as paper-thin as a sequel to Battlefield Earth. We're mostly going to beat each other senseless, make enemies with Disney, tell a few dick jokes, make a few jokes at my expense, make a lot of jokes at Hugh's expense, and completely sidestep Marvel's mandated after-credit sequence, which, if you haven't figured it out yet, is always just a commercial for another movie, which will invariably end with a commercial for another movie. So sit back, relax, let us lower your IQ and raise your heart rate while we travel to a vapid dreamland, a place where grown men and grown women walk around in tights and act like it's not a giant cultural cry for help. This is cinema.
Yeah, I think you said, like, when we saw the Deadpool trailer, you're just like, these movies have become the very thing they were parodying.
Yeah, exactly. They become the very thing that they've sought out to not do.
Yeah.
And when you think about Ryan Reynolds, he's not an actor anymore. Like, he's only viewing acting as a vessel to make more money and to venture into business and ownership and entrepreneurship. Mint Mobile, you know, Wrexham,
his tequila brand,
Aviation Gin, you know, it's just these things turn me off from that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's nothing behind his eyes. You know, I feel like it's kind of sad, but we love you, Ryan Reynolds. Get on the pod.
Ryan Reynolds, get on the pod.
Get on the pod. Get on the pod. But overall, I'm very, very. I think that film in particular is going to be a very big tell as to the things that are coming out. But overall, I like this film a lot. I would probably wouldn't put this in my top 5 just yet, because while I did watch this film, there are certain scenes where I am forgetting like what's happening. Like we've been out of the theater for nearly like over an hour, I would say. It's been nearly over an hour since we last watched this film. I'm already forgetting a lot of what's in the film. That's not a good sign. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad film, because there are a lot of great films out there where I don't really remember that much about it.
You need to watch Fury Road.
Probably.
I implore you to watch Fury Road. Please, for the sanctity of this channel, you have to watch.
I gotta watch Fury Road. I will. I still love Civil War a lot.
Yeah.
I still love Monkey Man a lot. I still love Dune Part 2, a few other films, but in terms of top 5, not just yet. But overall, yeah, I Unfrosted, definitely top 5.
Unfrosted.
How can you not include Unfrosted?
Best movie of the decade. What are you talking about?
Best comedy of all time.
Oh my god, I'd like to see Jerry Seinfeld's Mad Max movie.
What if we just went around and just tried to kill people? Wouldn't that be funny?
I'm Scrotus, son of Immortan Joe.
That would be so funny. I would like to suck on that Scrotus a little bit, you know? All right, we're a little bit going haywire. But overall, I don't really give ratings to films. As you know from this pod, like I don't like to give like a number or a letter or anything of that nature to it. Yeah. I just feel like it's a little tacky, in my opinion.
That's right.
But you gave it an 8 out of 10.
I'd say just because it's the only way to like I get my thoughts across in like a quick way. Like an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I really like the film, and I implore you guys to watch it in the theater. Don't just watch it at home. Don't think that it's just going to go straight to VOD in 2 weeks. That's not the environment that we want to set out for creatives. You know, the reason as to why creatives love the theater so much is because they're able to see a return on their investment on paper. You know, these streaming sites, they don't give the numbers to them.
No.
You know, if you talk to any comedian and you ask them, "Oh, what were your numbers on the special?" They're like, "I don't know. I just know if I get a better payday that the numbers were good, or if they decide to drop me." You know, so again, supported because that's where they're able to see the financials to it. Yeah. They're able to see the accounting to it. But overall, really liked it, and I think that concludes another episode of the podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We don't know what movie we're going to watch next, and we don't know when we're going to upload that episode.
We don't even know if there are going to be any movies left.
And yeah, that's we don't know. We don't know if there are going to be any movies left. It might be over after this weekend.
It might be. They might just close it all down.
They might just look at the recent, critically acclaimed movies and be like, oh my god, like. None of these made their return.
David Zaslav is going to light Warner Brothers on fire.
Overall, that is our pod for today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you guys soon, sometime in the future. Bye.
Bye.